Thanks for joining, everyone. So for today's workshop is called All-in-One Business Dashboard. So this will cater to be a bit more intermediate users, but I know that some of you might be a bit new to Notion as well. So I'll go as slowly as possible to kind of explain each of the concept. So it's okay if you can't follow along everything from A to Z today, but at least the idea is that I want to give you some ideas on how you can build a dashboard inside Notion. So this idea came to me from one of my clients. So she juggle like multiple businesses, so like SME. So she mentioned like, oh, how can I have like a dashboard in Notion that can juggle multiple businesses? And then this got me thinking like, because nowadays a lot of us as well, even if we don't have our own business, we have a lot of different projects as well. So sometimes you want to juggle multiple things, right? So how can we have a system to kind of cater for that? All right. So if you haven't met me before, so nice to meet you. My name is Thomas. So I'm a Malaysian. So I'm not sure. I assume everyone is from Malaysia. At least most of you are. And then so I'm a I don't know what I call it, quarter. So I 3/4 for Chinese. So depends on which country I'm from. So if I go to Thailand, they will call me Thai. If I go to Vietnam, they'll call me Vietnamese or Burmese. So because of my skin color is a bit toned, like a bit darker. So I used to work in AstraZeneca and Accenture. So it's a consulting company and then a pharma company. So probably most of you be more familiar with AstraZeneca. And then I'm also a Notion ambassador. So which means that I actually host workshops quite frequently. So for now, the frequency is that I'll host workshops on a monthly basis, and then also host physical workshops. Maybe some of you here have joined the previous one last month. And then also I run the Notion agency. So basically it's called Digital Cookie. It's based in Malaysia, where I help people to consult and I help them to build solutions, workspace for the clients. Yeah, so far I've delivered up to around 20 plus Notion projects so far. And then these are some of the examples here. So there are some companies from US, some mostly from Malaysia, and then Australia as well. So I'm not sure why the Aussie likes me. And then this is some of the examples that I built for my clients. So here is like a live reporting tool, so a dashboard. So a lot of us like Notion, like because it centralizes our data in one spot. So one of the good things is that once we have all the data, we can do a lot of different things. So one example here is that we can provide a live reporting tool. So anything that we do about tracking our projects, everything will be updated on an instantaneous basis. So this one example. Another one is something called OKR system. So this is more like some of you might be aware, but this is more like a goal tracking or like a setting goals for organizations. So the clients ask me to kind of build a bit. So the idea is that from a top-down level, the CEO will have a different views, and then the employees will have a different views kind of set up from a team level basis. You can see like the HR, marketing. So different people, they have a different page for themselves. So the last one is an end-to-end sales pipeline. So this is more like a Kanban board kind of style. So probably most of you are quite familiar with this. So yeah, this is just some examples to show you. And then this is actually the workshop that we had. So this was when we first started in 2023. And then I ran one on January for online workshops. And then last month, no, yeah, it's last month, right? February. So this is the physical workshop that we ran. So we have around, I think we had around like 25, 26 participants came. So it was quite fortunate to have everyone join. So we're planning to have more workshops soon. So if you're interested, I'll share after this at the end of this workshop. All right. So enough about me yapping by myself. So let me just see any questions. Yes, recorded. I might have to jump off soon due to another class. Okay, no problem, Salosin. All right. So for today's agenda will be all-in-one business template, right? So what does this entail? So basically what it has when it comes to Notion, right? We can do a lot of things, but today I kind of pick a few essentials that we want to do. So at least when we want to start our own projects, our own business, right? One of the things that essentials we had would be the task. And the second one will be on finance. So kind of track our financial side, how much we're earning. And then the third one is a dashboard. So we want to kind of see like an overall view of, how our business is going on. And the last one is project. So we want to track each of the individual projects that we might have, and then kind of how we can drill down into more of a project for the task itself. So I'll go through each of the component with every one of you bit by bit. So we kind of break it down. And then you will learn how to, by the end of these sessions, to create databases. And then how you can link that database to the page. And then third is to use customized layout which is new feature by Notion. And then 4 is the advanced formula. So this is a bit more complicated. So I'll probably slow down a bit more. And then I'll appreciate if you have any questions, please stop me during that time as well. And lastly, just how to create a dashboard. So yeah, we're just getting started on just to try to showcase the main show of today, which is a template that we'll be building together. So it's called all-in-one business dashboard. So let me just click inside here to kind of show you the example here. So the idea is that when we have a dashboard for the business, so I'm using this new latest features by Notion. I'm not sure how many people have you tried it yet, so let me know as well. So something called customized layout. So essentially, Notion allows you to simplify your Notion page and then allows you to have this. So for example, when I go into this page, right? So imagine this is your business page. So you go inside this, and then first thing you see is your tasks. So I can see task 1, task 2. I can even create like task 3, for example. And then what you can do is just kind of do it. Once you're done, you're just going to take it. So it's very simple, right? So the benefits of using this layout as well for someone who is more familiar with Notion is that people can't actually easily screw up this page. So you can't really delete this thing. So you can't really move it around. So this is actually very sturdy in a way. So this is the task page. And the second one is a project page. So once you select the next tab, which is a project. So you can see we have 2 projects example here. So we have project 1 and project 2. So it's a very simple project. Essentially, we have dates to kind of track from when to when. And here we have a subtask here. So this is the formula that I'll be teaching you guys today. But essentially what this formula is doing is just getting the task that's for this project. We call it subtask. And then you can see which task we haven't completed yet. So you can see here there's task 2, task 3. So you might notice the task is red color as well. So this means that this task is overdue. And then we have the completed subtask as well. So we kind of know how many tasks has been completed for this particular project. So this is something that we will be building together later. So if we kind of expand this project as well, right? You kind of see this is where we have the due dates. This is where the progress, the status. And then you can see the same thing we have, which is the task that we have. So let's say if I just click this, right? You can see this is overdue. If I just click done, so you can see that the task has disappeared by itself. So this is a very useful tool when it comes to Notion. When you learn more about it, you can kind of create more like a mini dashboard inside your Kanban as well. So this is one of the things that we'll be building later. And then as a Kanban, so if you guys have used it before, you can just kind of drag it around. Once you're done, you can just move it to done. So that's it for this part. The income here basically is just a simple way to kind of track your how much income you earn here. In this case, let's say you have from this client you earn 3,000, this one for 4,000, maybe you have another one, I don't know, like maybe like a workshop, 500 ringgit. So for example, and this way you can attach your invoice, your receipts, and then your transaction dates. And then once you've collected it, you can just update to paid, and then you just disappear. So for now, I don't want it to be disappeared, but you kind of track your progress. So nothing too fancy for today. So the idea is that I want to kind of introduce you how you can use these new layout features, and also to kind of link with specific formulas here. So the last part is just the dashboard. So the idea is that once we have these projects, we have this expense tracker, income tracker, like we'll kind of see how we're doing. So this is where you can have a dashboard here. You can see like this, your money finance, like, okay, so in February, we have earned around 4K, not around, it's exact 4K. And then March, 3.5K. So this is live. So if you use Notion before, right? So if I do it, this thing, like if I just put this to April, you can kind of see that it will update immediately. You can see April, we have 500 here. So this is one of the good things about Notion is that we updates instantaneously. So for today's purpose, everything you can follow along even if you're a free user. So except for dashboard is that I think for free users, you can only have up to 1 dashboard. So you can kind of delete your previous dashboard. You can kind of follow along with this one. So next one is just a project status. So project tracker, you can kind of see what's the status of your project. So just now, you remember I moved it all to done, right? So you see it automatically updated to done. We just kind of move around as well, gonna do it into not started. And I can see that it's updated automatically as well. Yeah. So this is something that we'll be building today. All right. So we just have an empty page here. I'm just gonna name this as all-in-one business dashboard. So you can name it whatever you want. So it's up to you. And then we can just select one Notion logo here. Just kind of check the time. Right. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna build the 3 main database. So one is the finance, one is the project, and one is the task. So we'll start with the most simplest one first. So if you're new to Notion, so you might be confused between Notion, like what is database, what is a page, right? So what you're looking here is basically a page. So basically you can kind of type like a Microsoft Word documents. So task database, you can think of it as more like a Excel file. So how you can create a database, you can just do slash database. You can see Notion already kind of show you. So you have two options here. So for now, we're going to select inline. So if I select inline, you can kind of see it just shows up here. Yeah, and I'm going to just name this as task. Yeah, I'm going to wait 10 seconds. So just wait for everyone to follow up. So you create a database and just name it task. All right. So you can see if you're fairly new to Notion, basically database is like Excel file. You can see I can type something here and I can add on columns, but in Notion, we call it properties. So let's say I add a columns here, right? So in our case, we want to add something called status. No, not in this case, just for example for now. So status, once you create it, right, you can automatically see like it creates a drop down for you. So this is kind of how you can create a drop down. But for this case, because we're creating a task, we don't want a status. So I'll delete this. So how I can delete this is just click on the status and then delete property. And then Notion asks you to prompt, are you sure you want to delete? Just click delete. All right. So now we're going to add another property. So since it's a task, we want to use a checkbox. So we're going to go down here. You can scroll down here. You can see, so the checkbox is here. Or if you can't find it, you can type as well. You can search. So checkbox. And we're going to add this. So a simple checkbox. You can just tick it. You can do another one, task 2, and tick it. So simple enough. So another trick that I like to use as well is that for checkbox, you can actually kind of like do this. You just go like this. So it makes it as small, so you don't have to make it too big. So it's personal preference, but for me, I like it to be like this, so it's not too, I don't know how I call it, distracting. Yeah. So now that we have the task, so there's one things we want to do is that add one more is the date. So we want to assign the task for date, right? So you can add a property as well. So this plus button here, and then you can select due date. So Notion already kind of suggested you. So I'm going to move it here. So the idea is that I want to assign a date so that I kind of know when my task is being due as well. So I can kind of manage my tasks. All right. So the last thing is, so if you're quite fairly new to Notion as well when it comes to database, so you can actually create a template. So now when every time I create a new task, right? So it's kind of like I have to kind of do the task name, I have to fill in the dates. So it's a bit manual. So this is a fairly new feature, I think. Came out like last year maybe. So you can actually do like a templates. So you can go to the right button here. There's a down button. So select the down button here. And then select new template. So I'm going to pause for a while. So if you can't follow along, let me know. I'm just going to give you like 5 more seconds to kind of follow up. All right, so you select the blue button here, drop down, and then new template. So the concept of template is that we don't want to keep repeating what we want to type. So normally for me, by default, just name this template as default. And then you can even select an icon. So Notion like normally we like to be more aesthetic. So it's up to you which icon you want. For this case, I'll just choose this like a, I don't know, like a tick button. And then for the due date properties here, or column in this case, you can select here. So you can see there's an option here. So shortcuts. So time when duplicated or date when duplicated. So in this case, we just select date when duplicated. So the idea is that in the future, every time we create a new task, it will automatically fill in the due date for us. So this is what we want. So now that we're done with this, you can go out now. You can click any way you want. So you press escape as well. So that's fine. And then go back to the blue drop down. So press it. And then you can see now that we have this default. So we want to select this as a default instead of this empty. So now that we can do this, is select 3 dot, set as default. And then now Notion is going to ask you like use default as a default template when creating new pages. So for all views in task or only on table. So for our use case for today, we will select for all views in task. All right, now that we're done, I'm going to delete all the tasks for now. I'm going to start over again. So I'm going to create a new task here. So task 1, task 2, task 3. So as you might have noticed, automatically Notion has created the icon for me and then the date as well. So I can change the dates, but at least it's easier. Like if I want to create dates, the task for today, right? I don't have to keep on going back and then create it. So yep. So this is our task database. So we're mostly done now. The last thing is that, at least this is more like my personal preference. Normally when it comes to tasks, I prefer a list view. So that's the next thing that Notion might be, not might be, it's very different from Excel. Is that, so by default, Excel can only have a table view. So for Notion, when it comes to database, you can actually select a plus button here. You can see there's a top here. So there's a table here, right? You can select this plus. So Notion call this a view. So meaning a different way to kind of visualize your data. So instead of table, I don't want it. I want a list. So if I select a list, what you see is that my database, my table, it became a list. So I can select this 3 dot here as well on the top right. And then properties. And then just make sure that my checkbox is coming back up. So once you select this, you can see that we created a list. So this is like a checklist, essentially. So I'm going to just delete this table because I don't need this anymore. And that's it. So this is our list. The final step is just filter. So for now, it's like once we check off the task, right? So you can see it's still here. So when you use like, if you use like, I don't know, Todoist or any like Google Tasks, any tools you used before. So once you check off the box, right, you want it to disappear. So how we can do this? So Excel have the same feature as well. Is you can use filter and then select the checkbox and then select uncheck. So we only want to see tasks that is unchecked. So now that it's done, you can see that we only have task 2 left. All right. So that's it for the first database, task database. We're done now. All right. So moving on to the second one is the project database. So we're gonna go for this now. So same thing. You're gonna do a slash database. I'm gonna just check any comments here. All right. So now that we have this database, I'm gonna name this as projects. All right. So projects. So the same thing. Every time we create a new database, you want to add a property. So you click the plus button here. You're gonna select. In this case, you want to select status. So status. So this is the one that I created earlier, so I can kind of track the progress here. So we created the projects and then status. Next, you just add a date as well. So we want a date. So I'm gonna just type date here. So select type dates. So normally for projects, this is kind of what we want. But for Notion, I think this is a very new feature as well. For some of you might not have tried before. It's called subtasks. So for now, it's like, let's say I'm gonna type project 1. And I'm gonna put dates. So, but then I want to kind of track a bit more detail, right? Because it's a bit limited. I don't have all the info. I want to have like maybe tasks under the project itself. So in the past, we kind of link tasks to project, but for Notion, like the newer features they have is something called subtasks. So what you can do is you can just select this 3 dot here, and then you're gonna go to this customize projects. So it's a bit hidden. So I feel like if you're not that used to Notion, you might not notice this. Customize projects, and then sub items. So I'm gonna select this, break down items in toggles. You're gonna select add. So turn on sub items. So once you selected it, you can kind of see something change here. So I'm gonna repeat one more time, just in case you can't follow. So 3 dot, and then you select customize projects, and then sub items. You just add it. All right. So now that we have it here, you can see that there's a, I don't know what I call it, like a small toggle here. If I'm gonna select this toggle, right, you can actually add sub items here. So let me just type in here as well. You can see, if you notice now, is that you can actually have 3 tasks under this project. So I can actually just collapse this. So you can see it disappear now. I'm kind of another project as well. And then kind of add on here as well. So task 4, task 5. So this is kind of how you can easily add new tasks under your project. So without creating extra database. So it depends on, sometimes you might ask Thomas, like when I'm going to use this, when I'm going to use the other one. So it depends on your use cases. But at least for today's demo, so I'll be using this format. All right. So we're done now. So last thing I want is create a checkbox. So we don't need it now, but later you kind of know why we need this. So for now, we just create this. And last thing we just do is just do the same thing again, just create templates. So do templates, we do the same dates, and then select date when duplicated, and that's it. All right, you might see that Notion created this like parent item, sub item for you. So we don't need this for this use case. So basically, this is because we selected the sub items. That's why Notion created this for you. So the idea is just that, let's say I go for project 1, right? You can see that sub items, all your tasks is under here. So for parent item, there's no parent item because there's nobody above project 1. So that's the reason why. But for our today's purpose, we won't be using this, so you can just ignore this. All right, so we have created our projects. So last thing is, I'm going to reiterate again. So Notion can use different views. So we don't want table for our projects. We want it to be more like a Trello. So we want to be more like a Kanban board. So what you can do is you can click plus again. I'm going to do it a different way. So instead of clicking plus, I don't want to add a new one. I want to edit the existing table. So what I can do is select the table, edit view, and then there's something called layout here. You just click on the layout, and then you can select a board. So there's a few options here. So earlier we tried here is we use the list, right? So now we want to try board. So you select board, and automatically you can kind of see that it selects for you. So you have the not started, in progress, and done. So there are a lot of different options here. So we won't go through it today, except maybe I like color columns. It just looks a bit prettier. So that's it. So that's what we'll be doing today. So the task here for projects, you can kind of move around it. So I won't go through the formula later. I'll go through view later, but for now, this is what we have. All right. So the next one is the last database they want to create is finance. So we want to check our finance. So like slash database. All right. So I'm just going to call this a finance. All right. So I'm not an accounting person, so don't judge me. At least how I can track it is very simple. So I have what they call amount. I think we need this as a number. So we create a property as well. Select plus, type number. So you can select this number here. So the number here, so we're gonna rename this as, you just click on this number here, type amount. And then another thing you can do as well is edit property. You can select this number format. So select number format, and I can actually change it to a currency. So I think most of us in Malaysia, so you can select ringgit. So it depends on your country. So in my case, I'll select ringgit, and that's it. So I'm gonna do one, maybe like, let's say client 1, and then I got 500 ringgit. So you can see that it's showing MYR 500 here. All right. So the next one is we can do is we want to attach invoice. We want to attach receipts. So when we send our clients our invoice, so you want to have somewhere to kind of store our invoice, right? So Notion can do that as well. So just click plus. So you can type file. I think it's faster. So this is the one that we want, the property called files and media. And then I think Notion has already suggested receipt file as well. So, but in this case, I want this one, files and media. We're going to rename this as invoice. So by default, if we are using the free plan for Notion, I think the limit is 5 megapixel, so 5 Mbps. So 5 Mbp. So you can upload, attach any PDF or any file, imaging file. So, but for invoice, I don't think it will be more than 5 Mbp. So yeah, I think that's fine. So next is, I'm going to show you another way as well. So now that we have this invoice, right? So I'm a bit lazy to kind of create a new one. So what I can do is just select the invoice. You can select duplicate property. So now you have a new property here. So we can just rename this. I'm going to just rename this as receipt. All right. So now that we have our name, our amount, our invoice, our receipt, the last one is I'll just probably want to have a status. Just kind of track it whether my client has paid me or not yet. So what's the status? So now that we create the status, that's it. So we can just end it here. So we have the task database, the project database, and then the finance database. Yeah. So before we move on to the main actual dashboard itself, any questions from anyone here? So you can type your questions, you can unmute yourself. All right. I assume everyone's okay. All right. Okay, so now that we have these 3 databases, so remember the main goal is that we want to connect everything into our business dashboard. So how can we do that? So you might be surprised. I'm going to ask you to create a database again. So this time I'm going to create at the top here. So how we can do that is just you can kind of go through here, like you can just press enter here. All right. So I'm going to create at the top here. I'm just going to do slash database. So this is a bit not that intuitive for now because Notion just kind of released this feature. That's why we are using a database. But honestly, like if you can use it as a page, I would prefer it. But in this case, we'll be using a database. So I'm just going to name this as a database for now. I'm not that creative to kind of think what's the name. And then you're going to add a new page. So for this new page, you can just call it your business name. Like for example, you can whatever names you want. Just type in the name of your business. So for my business, it's called Digital Cookie. So I'll just call it Digital Cookie. All right. So once you click open, so moving forward, this will be our main page. So we're not going to deal with this task, projects, finance page anymore. So these are just hidden at the back end. We're not going to use it, see them anymore in the future. So I'm going to open as a full page. All right. So first thing, I'm just going to add a logo here because I like logos, and then maybe add some cover. Just have some, I don't know what, maybe a cookie cover. So it's up to you what you want to add. All right. So imagine this is your dashboard now, but you can see there's nothing here. It's empty. It's a desert. So what you want to do now is you want to use this customized layout feature that I showed you earlier. So we're going to create like this customized layout. So that's the reason why we're using a database, because currently customized layout can only be used in a database itself. So I'm going to select customize layout. Okay, now that you can see this, if this is your first time, you're very confused, it's okay. I'm gonna go very, very, very slowly because they just released this last week, I think. So they changed a lot of different things, so it might be a bit confusing. So by default, you're probably seeing this, but if you accidentally click other things, you might see other different things, right? So what you need to do is, let me see. I also get confused sometimes because it's quite new, right? Depends on where you press, like this page on the right side here changes. Okay, so what you need to do is you want to click at the bottom here. Just click anywhere down here. So if you click here, you should show different things. So you're just gonna click down here. You want to make sure you have the same page as me. So this page settings, simple or tab structure. So I'm gonna give you like 10 seconds to kind of navigate here while I'll drink some water. So this is a very, very new feature. It's like a tab. So I'm gonna slowly explain what this means. So once you select a tab, and then we have some things here like inline comments, things like that. I'm gonna ignore this, so we're not gonna use this for today. And then you can see once you select tab, right, you can see there's a difference here. There's a plus button here. Let me just select simple again to kind of show the difference. So this is the traditional Notion view here. So once you select tab, what you see is that there's a tab here, it's literally, right? So the idea is that if you select plus, you can link existing database. So if you have used Notion for a while now, you might have been familiar with something called link database. Like last time, you can link a database from one page to another page. So this is kind of similar concept, but it puts it into the page itself. So I'm going to select link the existing database here. So now Notion is going to ask you which database you want to link. So just now we created 3 databases. You can see that there's a finance database here, project database, and task database. So we're going to do the simplest one first. So we're going to select task. All right. And then Notion is going to ask you, like, do you want to add a new relation? So we don't want to do anything complicated for today. So we don't want to relate anything. We just want to add as a view. We just want to copy the exact database and put inside here. So add view. So you can see here, we have the database right now here. All right. So you can see that it's changed to a table. I actually just realized that I don't really want it to be a table as well. Because earlier, if you remember, we created a list, right? So I think Notion doesn't automatically select the list for you. I think probably it's quite new for them. Yeah. So now that we have this task here, we want to do the same thing we did earlier. So, but it's a bit different interface here. So a bit confusing. So instead of doing it here, right, we can't really do it here. So you can actually change outside as well. Let me just select apply to all pages, kind of show you why we're doing here. So yeah, now that we added here, right, you can see that our main page here, just now you go back to content. So this is our blank page. Now that we added this task here, so you can see that can we change it? Oh, we can't actually. Oh, you can do filtering here as well. But if you do filtering here, it won't save. So anything changes, permanent changes you want to do, you have to go back to customize layout. So I'm going to select customize layout. and then tasks, and then we're gonna do layout. So you want to make sure this is a list, right? So we're gonna do layout on the left, on the right side here. Select table. This one we want to do it list. So select list. All right, now that we have the list, we're gonna go back here, select back button, and then we want to, because right now it's only showing the name, right? So we want to show the checkbox. So properties, just enable checkbox, enable due dates. So I'm gonna just rearrange the arrangement here. So for now, you can't see anything. I actually don't know why you can't see anything. It's kind of counterintuitive. Let me just apply it to all pages first. All right, now that you can actually see the dates and then the task and then the checkbox. So, but even if you notice, like it's not disappearing, so we have to apply the filter as well. So we can go back to the customize layout, and then we select task. So for now, you can see that this thing is not what we want as well. So it's a bit confusing. Like, so you can select task right now, and then filter, checkbox, and then select checkbox, uncheck. So basically, we only want to see tasks that is not completed. All right. So that's it. So you want to kind of aesthetic wise, want to change this icon here, you can do it. You just press this thing, and then you can do like, for me, I like this checkmark list. So you can do that. All right. So that's it for our checklist here. So I'm going to just move this to the left side here. So if you move it to here, so the idea is that when you open this page, you always get to see your task first. And then maybe the last thing I want to do is maybe just do a sort. So sort is basically like, I think Excel, they have it as well. So you want to sort based on the date. So you want to show the dates that's the latest in front. All right, that's it. Going to apply it to all pages. So you can see now, let me just kind of try add a new task here. So task 4, for example, we can see that this is on the earliest. We're going to do like 31st, right? You can see that it goes until the last. And then I'm going to check box, then it disappears. So that's it. So that's how you can have the task here. So I'm just looking at the time. I think we started at 8, right? All right. I think we still have time. All right. So now that we added the task, next thing we want to add is the projects. So I'm going to go to customize layout. And then same thing now. You're going to plus this thing. So this is a tab here. Just add new tab. Link existing database. And then select projects. So I'm going to slow down, give 10 seconds again. So I'm going to repeat one more time. So select plus, link existing database, and then projects. All right. So if I'm going too fast, so I think we are at the midway point right now. So do let me know, and then I'll kind of slow even more down. All right. Select projects, and then add view. So we're not doing anything with relation for today. Add view. So same thing, you can see that they are giving us a table layout. So we don't want a table, we want our Kanban. So what we can do is we go back to the layout here. So on the right side. So if you lost this view, right, so you kind of see different things. So make sure that you select projects, and then you go back to layout, and then select board. So board. So this is where we have our Kanban again, and I'm gonna do my color again. So I prefer colors. And then for now, go back and then select properties. So maybe what I want to see is the dates. So you can do that. And then just do something like this. So we have the project name, the dates, and the task. So this is not the formula we showed you earlier. Like if you remember, like we can show that the task is listed like 1, 2, 3, like it's in the list format, right? So for now, we just have this. At least kind of show you what we have. We're going to apply to all pages. And that's it. So you can see here, we can do the projects here. All right. So maybe you want to make sure that once you move the project to done, you want it to disappear. So you can do that as well. So I'm going to go back to customize layout. I'm going to just move this project to the left side as well. And then, but in this case, like if you want to do the filter, you can do this. So just like filter, and then status is not. So it's not. Oh, yeah, it's not done. So anything that's not done, we want to show it. If you select this, and that's it. So once you move your task to done, right, you just disappear. So we can't move it from here, but yeah. All right. So we have our tasks, we have our projects. So last thing is our finance. So I'm not going to apply to all pages now. I think now you kind of know what we're dealing with. So I'm going to continue directly to add a new page here, a new database. So click plus, link existing database, select finance, So ignore the add new relation, add view. All right. So this one, I would like prefer it to be a table view. So we can kind of move this client here, maybe move it as the amount here, can move the invoice here as well, so that we have a bit more view clarity here. All right. And then similarly, I think I'll prefer to have like have it. I think there's a date properties missing. So you can go to the properties. Oh, we didn't add date, right? Okay. So if you didn't add it earlier, so you can add it here as well. So new property, select type dates. You can select the dates here. Okay, now that we have the dates here, we can kind of move around as well. So maybe a dates, I want to put it earlier in the beginning here. All right, so that's it. So maybe the last thing you want to do is just maybe do it like a, yeah, I think that's it. So, all right. So apply to all pages. Now I can see that we have the tasks, projects. This is supposed to be the dashboard and then the finance. So we have it here. So let me just kind of fill in a few data here because next we want to do is the dashboard. So client 2, let's give an example here. So 1,000, right, in the client 3. All right, so maybe 5,000, this example. Okay, and then maybe you want to do like, okay, this client 2 has paid us, so we just put done. And then maybe this one has paid us as well, so 5,000 have not paid us yet. All right, and then we have 2 projects here, and then we have tasks here. Okay, so the final things that we want is, at least for this view, is we want to have the dashboard. So I'm going to show you the dashboard as well. So I think I forgot, Salocin, just now you asked, right? So for dashboard, it's only, at least for free users, it's only one dashboard per user. So if you're using a paid account plus plan, you can create unlimited dashboard. So if you can't follow along, it's okay. I'm just gonna show you how you can do it. So now that we're here, let me just gonna go back to customize layout first. So I'm gonna move this content to the right side because I don't like this front. All right, and then content, I'm gonna just rename this as a dashboard. Let me see, select the content. You can just type this as dashboard. And then maybe I can just select an icon as well, maybe a chart. All right, so now that we're done, just select apply to all pages. Okay, that's it. All right, so this is where we'll be using linked database as well. I think there's a comment in the chat, if I'm not mistaken. All right. All right, so now that we're in the dashboard, we're gonna use something called linked database. So this is a very, very old features, but it's still very, very helpful. So essentially what we've been doing now, if you're quite new as well to Notion, is like why is that we're creating new database here, right? So this is actually essentially the same database that we created earlier. So let me just go back to the front page here to kind of show you. So whatever we're seeing here is actually this one. You can see task 4 that we added here. So I'm gonna show you one time here. I'm gonna add a task here, right? Task 5. You can see that it's actually the same thing. It's just that we're having that view in a different place. So yeah, for linked database, it's the same concept. So I'm gonna show you this just an example here. So this is our page here. So our dashboard, we can type anything as well. So you can treat like the Word documents. But for today purposes, we wanted this to be a dashboard. So I'm gonna just do a slash link. So once you select link, you can see this link view of database. So once you want to click it, once you click it, right, you can select database, task, finance, project. So a lot of different things here. But for this case, I'm just going to show you first. We're going to select task. I don't have to follow this. This is just to kind of showcase the concept of linked database. So once I select task, right, you can see that this is exactly what we have. We can even have this like task 6 here. If I go to task here, right, you can see task 6 here. So we're seeing the exact same thing. So this is one of the things why people love Notion a lot as well, is that once you have one database, we can have it in different pages, different places, as long as it fits your purposes. So, but yeah, this is linked database, so we don't have to keep creating the same Excel file again. We can reuse the same exact thing. So I'm gonna delete this, so we're not using this. So in this case, we want to create is a chart, a dashboard. So we're gonna do the same thing, linked database. So type slash link view of a database. So in this case, we want to select is maybe first one we can select is projects. So you select the projects. All right. So by default, it will show us the board view that we created earlier, but we don't want this one. So as I showed you earlier, so we can do plus as well, but I want to edit this. So what you can do is just select the board. edit view. So one more time. So you select the board, edit view. So you go to the right side here, we can see there's a layout here. So the same thing that I mentioned earlier. So we want to change to a different view. So in this case, we want to select charts. So you can select a different view as well. I'm going to show you an example here. You can select calendar. So, but in this case, want a chart, you select chart. All right. And then Notion will give you a option to edit the charts. So we want to edit that. So by default, it gives you this, what do you call it, the bar chart, right? So vertical bar chart. So we have not started, in progress, and done. So it's not bad. It's good enough. But I prefer to use donut chart, or I think what they call it, like a pie chart, is it? So for this case, I prefer to use this view here to kind of see the progress. So you can see we have 7 projects not started and 1 in progress, I think. Yeah, 1 in progress and 7. Why do we have so many projects here, actually? I'm a bit confused. So if you notice here, we actually have, because we use sub items previously, right? So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 3 tasks here, 4, 5 tasks, and then 6, 7. That's why this dashboard is actually calculating our sub items as well. So of course you don't want that. It's very confusing because I just want my projects, right? So this is where we can use filter as well. So you can use filter for your charts as well, which is very useful. Select filter. And then in this case, you might be thinking, like, what are we filtering, right? So if you're quite new to this, it's maybe a bit confusing. So remember when I showed you earlier, I'm just going to go back to projects. When I expand the project 1, right, you can see that there's no parent item here. So basically, there's no someone above this project item, right? Project 1. So but they have a lot of sub items here. So similarly for project 2, there's no parent item. So in this case, what we want to filter is that we only want to get the projects where the parent item is empty. So what we can do is we can go back to the dashboard. So we can select filter. So same thing, select filter, select parent item. And then there's this thing called contains. So you want to change this. This is basically a logic for you. Like you want to select the logic for Notion. So parent item is empty. So once you select this, you can see that automatically our dashboard is being updated. So we have 1 not started, 1 in progress. That's it. All right. Of course, you can be clever and ask me, oh, Thomas, can I filter it based on the sub item as well? You can. So in that case, you want to say that the sub item is not empty. So yeah. So it depends on how you want to do it. But in this case, we will use this logic here. All right. So now that we have this first chart, we're going to create a second one, which is the finance. So we kind of want to see our financial record. So let me have a few different months so we can kind of see a spread result here. All right. So we have February, March, and April, right? So we go back to the dashboard here. What you want to do is that we do the same thing, link database. So / link view of database. And then you want to select our finance database here. So select finance database. And then by default, same thing, we'll get our table view. So if you don't want our table view, we want our dashboard. So what you can do is select the table again, edit view. You go to layout and select the chart. So I'm going to repeat one more time, right? So once you have a linked database of finance, oh, maybe one thing as well. So if you're quite new as well, like sometimes you might be afraid, right? So this is a linked database. You might be afraid like, oh, you accidentally delete this. So I've deleted this. They'll be like, oh, Thomas, did I actually deleted my whole database? All my record is gone. So don't worry. So one thing about linked database is that you can think of it like a clone. I don't know, or I don't know what you call it, a substitute. So even if you delete it, it's just a separate view. So it's not the actual main thing. So even if you delete it, it won't disappear. It will still be there. Yeah, just kind of reassure anyone that might have this concern. All right, so we go back to link view and then select finance. Right. So now you don't want a table. So if you remember what I told you earlier, so we just select the table, edit view. So we go to layout. So in this case, we want chart again. All right. So we want the charts and then edit chart. So depends on what kind of view you want, but for this case, I prefer this line view here. So we kind of see like a progress here. So Notion is not that smart. It doesn't know that we want to see how much we're earning. It's showing this like not started, in progress, done. So that's by default. So we want to see how much we're earning, right? So you go to the x-axis. So I think x-axis is the horizontal one. I always get confused as well. So what to show? What do you want to show in the x-axis? So we want to show our how much we're earning, right? So the amount. Wait, let me think about it. It's wait, is it a date or amount? I'm confused right now. I think it's a date. Let me kind of go through. Okay, yeah. So you want to show the dates. So you want to show the dates under here. So let me just repeat it. Yeah, I always get confused as well. All right. So you go to what to show, and then select the date. So once you select a date, there are a lot of different options here. Relative, day, week, month, year. So I'll leave you to try it out yourself next time. But in this case, we just want to select month. So you can see, you start to see something here. There's February, March, and April. You can see 1-1. I think there's a 1 here as well. So this is basically just counting how many items or transactions we have. All right. Next is I'm going to go back to table again, edit view. All right. So there's a lot of options here. Just ignore that. We're going to go to y-axis. So what to show. So by default, you can see now it's actually counting. So like I mentioned earlier, it's just counting how many transactions we have. So we're going to go to amount. So if you set up correctly, so you can't have this amount as a text. So it must be a number. Else Notion can't help you to kind of calculate it. So if you go to amount, you can select sum. So basically, you just total up any amounts for that specific month. So once it's like sum, you can see that we kind of get the view that we want now. So 500, 1000. I don't know why this is blocked. Maybe kind of expand this as a full page. So full width. It's interesting. I don't know why it's kind of blocked here. Right. Okay, never mind. Regardless, I kind of troubleshoot this later because it doesn't look very good. It's bothering me. But yeah, now that we have this view, I'm going to just show you one example as well. So let's say February, we have maybe extra 500. I'm just going to go back to this finance here. I'm going to just type client 4, and I'm going to 500 here, right? And I'm going to do February. No, this January, right? So going to go back to dashboard. You can see that automatically becomes 1000. So it just automatically sum it up for you. So if you have a yearly dashboard, you can kind of have an overall view. All right. So next thing is another thing is why you might notice, or you probably forgot about it. So if you go back to finance, we have something called status, right? So at least I have this status. The idea is just to kind of see when we have received the payment. So if we have not received the payment, we probably don't want to see it. If you might want to, maybe I'm gonna have 3 examples here. So we're not gonna see the extra 500 in this case. So what you can do is you can do the same thing. We go back to dashboard. In the finance, you can do filter as well. So in this case, this time, I'll give you 5 seconds to think what you want to filter. Okay. All right. So basically what we want to filter is the status here. It's like a status. So status is not, no, status is, sorry. Status is done. All right. So we want that the money that we have been paid for. All right. So you can see that this one becomes 500 again because we only want to count things that we have collected the money. All right. This is kind of how you can have this chart here. So last thing is, and let's just go back to edit view. I'm a bit bothered by why is it I can't see it. I think this thing called more style options. I'm gonna do the height as grid line, smooth line. You can kind of select like a aesthetic wise as well. I'm just kind of curious why I can't see the 5000. Okay, regardless. So yeah. So the last thing we want to do is just we want to have these two side by side. So this is personal preference. So in this case, what you can do is on this slasher, you can do slash and then okay, so I'm suddenly blanking out. So columns. So you select columns here, 2 columns, right? So you might not see it's like can't really see it. So there's actually 2 columns here, 1 and 1 here. You can see here. So what you can do is you kind of drag it here. So it's like this, like a 6 dot here. Just drag it down to these projects here. And this one, finance, you kind of do it here. And that's it. So I'm just gonna pull this up here. So maybe this one we give it more space. Right. So that's kind of how you can have your dashboard here. All right. So we essentially, I think we're almost there. So the last thing is I leave the hardest for the last. So the formula. But any questions so far? So If you don't want to go into the formula part, it's fine. So this is essentially, we have a functional dashboard here. All right, any questions from the chat? If it's not, then I'm going to continue. All right, so this is the most difficult part. I'm gonna do it step by step with you. Let me just kind of go back to the original example to kind of show you how it looks like. Let me go to my examples. So even for my personal page, I'm using the same thing as well. Right. So just a quick refresher, right? So essentially what we want to achieve is that we want to have this subtask here to kind of show our tasks in the listed formats, and then also maybe how many tasks we've completed. So let's say we've completed a task, we want this to disappear. Because let's say we have 10 tasks, right? You don't want your command to be like super long. So of course you can tell me like, Thomas, I want to kind of, why can't you see inside, right? So you can, but it's just easier, like we don't have to click inside, you can kind of see it. So we reduce one more click here. All right. So let me just go back to our templates earlier and show you now. All right. Okay, now that we are here, so I'm gonna open one project here. So this is our properties here. So dates, our checkbox, our status, parent item. So I'm gonna just hide this. So because we don't really need this, just gonna hide this. I'm gonna hide this as well. Right. So another thing you kind of see you can do as well is one thing is you can do the layout as well. We can do for the task here as well. So we can do one thing is I'll just do a quick one here. Same thing, can do a tab. This is a content. So in this case, I just type this as notes. So we don't really use it for much. And then here you can do sub items. So you don't need link another database. We just want to link the sub items, which is our task. We call it subtask in this case. And then just drag to the left. You can do the same thing, the layout list. And then we're going to do just a checkbox as well and dates. So essentially what we have done previously, and then we just add a filter. So any checkbox that is unchecked, that's it. So apply to all pages. So we have the same view as what I showed you earlier now, right? Except the dates. I don't know why we don't have dates, right? Okay, we do have it. Let me just do this. Okay. Right. So I think we're around 25 minutes. So I'll try to see how far we can go. If not, we can't finish it. So I'll add on a video as well in the recording later. Hi everyone, so this is the future Thomas here. So during the workshop, we ran out of time. So I want to kind of explain this formula part here just to take a little time to slowly kind of go through this. So yeah, so the ideas for this formula is that you can see in each of projects, we have our subtasks here. So basically like, you have task 2, task 3, task 4. You can see like it's also showing red color. So the idea is that if it's overdue, so if it's by today, if I make it like 2019, you can see that it's gone now. And then it's also aligned according to the latest dates. So 14/2/1. If I change this 14 to, I don't know, maybe March 4th, you can see it goes to the bottom here. And last thing is that once we complete a certain task, you can see it will just disappear. And then also we will have this completed subtask here. So the main purpose of this formula is just to kind of show that we don't have to drill down into it to kind of see what is inside. But for us, we can just see from the outside. And then if you want to, you can go inside and control that. So that's it. So I'm going to show you how you can do this formula step by step. So it's a bit complicated, so bear with me. And then let's get started. All right, so now we're starting from scratch. So we have this formula here. So you want to change this. So first thing you want to do is you want to find all the tasks that's available here and want to kind of filter it out. So you want to show the task that is not completed yet. So we don't want to show like, let's say 2 is completed. We don't want this to show up. So how can we do that? So first is I'm going to just select this formula here. And then I'm going to type sub item. So this is, you can see by default when you type sub item, it shows task 1, 2, 3. So because you click save here, right? You can see, I'm going to show you another one example. You can see this 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is another task they have here. So just do another name, maybe project 1, 1. So there are different tasks, even though they have the same name. So you can see project 1 here. Yeah. So this is by default, we have it, but we don't kind of want to have this. We want to filter it out. So in this case, we don't want to see project task 2 here. So what you can do is we can use something called filter. So subitem dot filter. And then once you select filter, right? So the idea of filter is that you can select a specific conditions and then what you don't want to see. So just open bracket and then type current. So this is always the same. You cannot change this. This is a standard format. So the idea is that current is just referencing back to this sub-item here. So now that we have it, so what do you want to filter? So we want to filter based on the checkbox, right? So dot. So my checkbox is called incomplete in this case. So I'm going to select incomplete. And then incomplete equals to false. So once I close the bracket, you can see we're showing only task 1 and task 3. So the idea is that for checkbox, it's more like a programming language terminology. So it's called Boolean. So if it's tick, it's equals to true. If it's not tick, then it's false. So in this case, we want it to be unticked, so we select false. All right. So now that we have the task here, so the next step we want to do is that we want to show the task in ascending order based on the dates. So how you can do this is, so imagine this is our formula now. We're going to continue to work on this part. So next is we use another formula called sort. So dot sort. So you can sort your formula here based on the dates. So use a bracket as well. And then same thing, you need type current and then dot, and then we want to sort based on the due dates. All right, so based on the due dates, and then just close bracket. So by default, if you don't type anything, you just close it, it will sort according to ascending order. So you may notice here as well at the bottom here, in the middle here, you can see dot sort dot reverse. So this is descending order. So if you want it to be that, so I'm going to show you as well if you want. So you can see that it's in a descending order now. So but we want to be ascending order. So this is kind of how we can do it. So task 1, task 3. All right. So I hope you're following along so far. All right. So next thing what I want to show is, so when we click the task now, it should disappear. It will appear. So this is good. So the next part is we want the task to be read when it's overdue. So or is today. So how can we do that? So I'm gonna go back to the formula again. Okay, so we're gonna do is next we do something a little bit different. So let's forget about what we learned earlier. So this is just a complete package. So essentially this thing here is basically just task 2, 1, 3. That's it. All right, so next we're gonna use something called map. So dot map. So map is quite complicated to kind of explain. Even for me, I know kind of how to use it now. It took me a while to understand as well. Essentially, it allows you to kind of play around with whatever database you have. So they call it like a list. So in this case, our list is 2, 1, 3. So inside our list, we have these 3 items here. So maps allow you to kind of play around with it, get information from it, and then display it one by one. So we're gonna type map for now. And then we're gonna type let. All right, so let is another concept, so apologize for making it even complicated. It's basically a variable, so it allows you to assign like variables for specific information. So this combination, you actually use it a lot once you're a bit more advanced into Notion, but I'm gonna just go through with it first, and then I'll kind of explain why we're doing this. All right, so let, and then we can just close bracket for now, just close it. So I'm gonna just arrange it slightly nicer, so we kind of do it something like this. So you can do like a shift enter to kind of do this if you're using MacBook, shift return. So and then this one you can do a shift tab, just kind of arrange the structure a little bit nicer to look at. All right, okay. I think so. This is more like a personal preference kind of thing. So I'm gonna just do it like this. All right. So this part, you can forget about it. So now we're starting a new line of code here. So first thing we want to select is we want to do something when the date is overdue, you want it to be read. So how can we do that, right? So first thing is we want to name a variable. So we want to name our sub items here. So I'm going to just call it sub item, and then we'll type current. All right. So by default, now that we have this, right, I'm going to show you something magical here. So sub item, I can just type this. You can see it shows the same thing, task 2, 1, 3. So basically what we're doing is that instead of typing this long ass formula here, we just name it under here. So sub item equals to this long as formulas. So in the future, we just type the same sub items. That's it. All right. And then next is we want to compare the dates, right? So how we can do it is we can do it dot. So sub item dot due date. So now we can see instead of getting the name of the task, right, the items, we're getting the dates. And then we can do format date. So format date is another formula that allows you to kind of change the format of your date. So in this case, I want it to be year, month, day. So once I type this, right, you can see that it turns to 25 month and then day. So why this format? Is because we are trying to do a comparison with another dates. So I found that this is the most accurate one to compare. So basically, like let's say I want to compare, is it more than today? So if the number is more than this, then it's more than today in a sense. So once we have this, I want to compare it today, all right? So I want to see is the due dates equals to or more than today. So I'm going to type this equals to or more than today. So this is a formula called today. And then same thing, we're going to do format dates, year, month, day. So we're going to compare apples to apples, all right? Okay, so this no need to equals. All right, so if this is then today, so basically means that you can see it's all 3 dots here. Essentially, it means that it is not overdue. So let's say I'm going to do March 18 here. I'm going to put 14. So you can see that it's unticked right now. So in this case, we want this to be overdue. All right, so now that we have this checked, we're going to go back to our formula again. I'm going to select the formula. Right, so now that we have this checked, we want to go back to the formula here. So one thing to note that map allows us to, so it's actually not giving you the information at the same time. It's actually giving you one by one. So if you're into programming, so it's called like a recurring, it's a loop, you know. So it's showing one by one. So that's when we can kind of do some more precise formula inside this map here. So what we want to do is that you want to type if statements. So you want to understand that if the due date is overdue, we want to do something. All right. So in this case, if the due date is not overdue, we're going to just show the sub item as is. If it's not, so I'm going to type just for examples, it's overdue. So what you can see is that the first one is overdue and task 1 and 3 is showing as is. All right. So of course we don't want them to just show overdue. We want them to show the task name and then we want it to be red. So how you can do that is, I'm going to just remove this overdue and I'm going to just space here so to have better formatting. So if it's not if it's overdue, what we want is we still want to show the sub item. So I'm going to type the sub item, but we want to use something called style. So you go out in style, go in style, right? So this is basically how you can format text inside a formula. So you type style and then just do something like this. And then if you type B, it becomes bold. But in this case, we want to be red. So what you can see is that, see, task 2 becomes red. So if I kind of adjust the date, so I'll just kind of prove it to you. If you move to 18, you can see that it's black right now. Right, so now you're probably starting to get how you can use this. Although it might still be confusing on how this entirely thing works. But if you want to learn, you can just kind of copy this thing here and then kind of play around what is inside here so that you get more familiarized with map in the future so you can use it yourself. All right. So now that we have this, what do we want to do next? So probably what we want to do next is we want to kind of make it a list. So if you remember the previous examples, it's actually like a list showing. It's not like this one. So how we can do that is you can go to this part at the end of this formula here. You type something called join, and then I'm going to do something like this. So what will happen is that you can see that it becomes a list. So essentially what join is doing, I'm trying to be careful not to click the task, and I click it anyway. Right. So essentially what join is the same thing, not same thing. It plays around with your list. So you can see example here. We have a list of A, B, C. So in between our ABC, we want to add something. So in this case, I do /n. /n basically means enter or new line if you're into HTML. So I'll give you an example. If I just type A in between, right, you can see that my task actually task 2A, task 1A, task 3. So, but in this case, you want to /n, and then we get them to be aligned here. All right, so I think that's it for this tutorial. I probably don't want to go too in-depth into the other formulas because probably this is already quite complicated for you. So hopefully you find this helpful. And then I'll pass it back to the past Thomas. No questions. And I'll be ending for today's sessions because I think the other part would be a bit too long. So I'll be posting this recording and then I'll just edit an additional part for the formula at the end so that you guys can follow along as well. And just to share with you, so there will be upcoming workshops on April. So this will be online as well. So far, I think I've set on 16th Wednesday. So probably will be the same time. So if you can join, so I'll be sending a link later as well. So you guys can sign up for that. And then for May, we'll be having in-person workshops. So this will be free. So Notion actually sponsor us to run the workshops. So that's it for today. So thanks for joining, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you again. Hopefully you guys can join the in-person events. So it's probably more interactive as well. Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.